Hi, I'm Matthew, and I would like to talk with you about some of the reasons to use old technology or old PCs. And I'm especially going to be talking about the Core 2 Duo platform for desktop computers. So that's the LGA775. So the 775, so on a CPU like this, Intel has a pretty easy naming scheme. The number of contacts, so all those little contacts there on the CPU, the number of them is in the name. So this is a LGA 775. So there are 775 little contacts on that chip that fit into the land grid array of the socket where the CPU sits in on the motherboard. And so that's why it's called LGA 775. So these processors are pretty old by technology standards, but they're still really useful and I like them. And here are some reasons why I think you may want to use them in some of your technology projects and builds, especially if you're just looking to have some fun with computers. These Core 2 Duo processors can be a great resource. There's some great reasons for that. So one of my favorite CPUs right now is the E8400. I've got one right here as well. There we go. The reason is that it gets really pretty good performance. It's got 2 cores at 3 gigahertz, and you can do quite a lot with that. A machine that has 8 gigs of RAM, this processor, and a solid state drive will run Windows 10 Pro just fine. It'll work great for many people. I would say the majority of my customers, how they use their computers. An E8400 solid state drive, 8 gigs of RAM, Windows 10 Pro, that'll work great. Of course, I'm a Linux guy, so I like Linux a lot, and I like talking about it and promoting it and experimenting with it. So, of course, Linux is an option, and right now I'm heavily recommending Linux Mint Cinnamon as a great upgrade from people who are coming from Windows 7, want to upgrade to something else, but don't want to go to Windows 10. Linux Mint Cinnamon is a great distribution of Linux to go to, and I'm sure that I'll talk a lot more about that in the future. But back to the list of reasons why this is a great platform, PC platform. The Core 2 Duo E8400 that I just held up, it sells for less than $10 on the used market. So if you find a PC or you're given a PC that has a Pentium dual core, but it's this LGA 775 socket, you can buy a processor for less than $10 and get a significant performance boost. So that's pretty amazing. The other reasons is like I mentioned, it's availability. They're easy to find, and they're not that expensive to buy. So cost, you can almost all of the processors used for the LGA 775 socket are $25 or less. So just some great options for processors. I like the E8400. There's some quad core processors, so the Core 2 quad processors. Those can be a good match depending on what you're doing, but I think that for a lot of these builds, a dual core with 3 gigahertz or close to it will work just fine. So you can get whole systems, the PC, RAM, storage, even sometimes monitor, keyboards, and mouse with accessories and everything you'd like for less than the cost of a Chromebook. So you can do so much more with these PCs than you can with a Chromebook. You can modify them, upgrade them, play with them, tinker, build them out to be exactly what you want, but they end up costing less than if you would go out and buy a Chromebook. So PC platform with modular components, upgradable memory. The machines that I showed here, the ones up here at top this is the Dell Optiplex 780, and the full tower is the mini tower, the small form factor, and the ultra small form factor. What's cool about this is I am about to get this one here, and that will complete my collection. I will have all 4 of these computers in all different form factors of the Optiplex 780. So I'm looking forward to that. This one's coming in soon, so I complete my collection of the Optiplex 780. But those systems, the whole systems, can be had for less than the cost of the Chromebook. And that system, the Optiplex 780, as well as this HP Elite 8000, they can be upgraded to 16 gigs of RAM. So very respectable. Windows 10 will work just fine on 8 gigs of RAM and certainly on 16 gigs of RAM. So processor sockets, unlike a Raspberry Pi or a Chromebook, which those sockets are on the motherboard. You can't upgrade them. You can't change them out for a different one that might be better for your needs. So, but with these LGA775 Core 2 Duo systems, you can change the processors. So they have standard SATA connectors for storage. So a lot of times the Chromebooks will have their storage built in, or there'll be a little clip or a slot for some type of expandable storage, but they're not standard SATA connectors for the most part. Some of them do have full 2.5-inch hard drives, but not all of them do. And certainly the Raspberry Pi doesn't have a standard SATA connector. So that's something where if you're wanting to play with computers and have fun with computers and change things up and modify things and do upgrades, there's a lot of great projects that you can do with the Raspberry Pi, and you can certainly do a lot with a Chromebook. But I'm arguing here that this platform, this PC platform, you actually get a lot more out of. And SATA connectors is one of those things. Most of these machines can have at least 2 hard drives. So lots of ports, as you can see on the back. I think there's 4 USB ports on the front and 6 on the back, so 10 USB ports. The USB 2 ports, but you can add a USB 3 PCIe card if you'd like, if you need USB 3. There's a serial port. The Dell Optiplex has the parallel port. There's DisplayPort. This has 2 outputs. This classic keyboard and mouse for PS2 connectors. So these computers are less stress because you don't have to worry so much if you accidentally bought something, if you're changing out a processor for the first time, if you've never upgraded a CPU. Do it on one of these systems. If you mess up terribly, which you probably won't because they're really easy to work with, but if you mess up terribly and bust the whole thing, you're really not out that much. You can get these replacement motherboards, certainly for the Dell Optiplex and the HP Elite. You can get replacement motherboards for less than $30. So nothing compared to the really expensive, $100 plus $200 for a motherboard when you're doing a new build. So, and these computers are still very useful for common workloads. You can get a lot done. How most of my customers use their computers, you can certainly do with either of these models or any computer that's based on the the LGA 775 platform with these Core 2 Duo processors. I certainly recommend having 8 gigs of RAM and a solid state drive, especially if you're using Windows. You can get by with less than that for Linux. A Linux desktop will run just fine for the most part on 4 gigabytes of RAM, especially something like Linux Mint Cinnamon will work just great, or Ubuntu Mate will work just great with 4 gigabytes. I like having 8 gigabytes or more in my systems, but you can do a lot with the graphical desktop environment with just 4 gigabytes in Linux. And of course, with a server, 4 gigabytes or even 2 gigabytes will work just fine for learning server stuff. Set up a server, set up a Nextcloud server, set up a web server. Have some fun with it. Learn some new skills. Set it up in your home and try pushing different things to the server and have it work for more than one person in your home, or set it up so that you have a backup server. One of these could be a great backup server as well. So there's just so much that you can do with these systems. They're a lot of fun. So let me know if you build something with one of these systems, with the Core 2 Duo LGA775 PC. I would love to hear about projects that you've already done or that you end up doing. So just reach out to me, connect with me on Library or Twitter, or just send me an email. I'm Matthew. Thanks for watching this video. Bye for now.